program, where we uh where we started, where we are, where we're going, how this grant from the Extension Foundation has helped us immensely along the way, and also how we've tried to reach out to underserved communities and have been somewhat successful in that. But we are just getting started. I do have some partners and program participants with me today, so they will be sharing throughout the presentation. But let's get started. So I'm Dr. Wesley Anderson. I wear a bunch of different hats. I am a wildlife specialist with Alabama Cooperative Extension. I am also an assistant professor in Auburn's College of Forestry, Wildlife, and Environment. So a lot of days I'm wearing multiple hats. Sometimes it'll be the Alabama Master Naturalist hat. Sometimes it will be the venomous snake trainer hat. And other times it's just the wildlife specialist. People reach out to me all the time about the bats in their attic or the snakes or all those sorts of things. And I also teach the students at Auburn as well. Um, but today, as mentioned, we are going to focus on the Alabama Master Naturalist program. So this is going to be as much about our involvement with Extension Foundation as it is just the evolution of the program and really, how the way that we made for ourselves um, and all the learning that went along the way. And just starting off, so prior to me arriving, Alabama Master Naturalists did exist. It was started in about 2012 by somebody named Doyle Kiesel here with Extension. Others helped administer the program, but the program was only really ever offered locally. So it was offered in Lee County, which is where Auburn University is, and then down in the Wiregrass, so southeastern Alabama. The major metro area there is Dothan. And then by 2021 and my arrival at Auburn, the program had become largely defunct, and that was due to retirements, also, due to COVID. I know that 2020 was derailed for a whole bunch of people and 2021 as well. So I applied for this position back in June 2020. I was still working on my PhD down at the University of Florida, and I asked the committee that interviewed me, I was like, so what would you like to see if I were to come here? And one of the responses was, well, we used to have a master naturalist program. It doesn't really exist anymore. And I was like, well, you know, there's the obvious need there. There's the desire to reboot it. Our current dean, Dr. Janaki Alavalapati, he used to be at Virginia Tech, and Virginia has a strong naturalist program up there, so he was on board with it. I was like, okay. So this is coming from somebody who, in 2010 spent 100 nights in a tent chasing after horned lizards down in Texas. 2016 to 2018, I was either trapping hogs or waist deep in wetlands close to Lake Okeechobee, Florida on a cattle ranch. I'm like, okay, well, I'm in an extension position. I like environmental education. I don't have a ton of experience with it, but let's give this a try. So this is me before I started my first day at work. I didn't go into work that day. This was taken a week or so before. Um, but significantly fewer gray hairs and a lot more well rested back then. But I had the charge, and we were gonna reboot this Master Naturalist program. So, as mentioned, the day that I walked in the door, I wanted to set about getting this rebooted. But it's a long, slow process. One, me just becoming familiar with my job, with the resources that are around, really what I'm supposed to be doing to eventually make tenure, and administrative hoops to jump through. Uh, you know, it would be great if we could just create content and put it out there, but being with Extension, that's not the case. Things need to be approved, they need to be branded. So even getting these slides that you see now, this PowerPoint template had to be approved by Extension. Um, so we got a brand new logo, which, we were talking about this before the presentation kicked off, and I really like it too. Our Extension communications team did a fantastic job. So, as mentioned, long, slow process. I'm wearing a bunch of different hats. Realistically, I can devote about 15 to 20% of my time to this program. There are a lot of other responsibilities, but we wanted to start building interest. And even though that a lot of the materials and files from the previous program that existed prior to the pandemic had been deleted, unfortunately, there was still a curriculum in place, topics, bullet points, and I was like, okay, well, let's build off of that. That's a really good foundation. So started recruiting speakers, people that were qualified to speak on the topics. And in fall 2021, we offered a free webinar. This was broadcast through our extension team's social media page or their Facebook page, and anybody could tune in. And we really just wanted to start building interest in the program so that when it was released one day, which took longer than expected, but we got there, um, there would be people that were interested in joining. Also, my only experience with the naturalist program before was one day my major professor out at Texas Tech when I was getting my master's, he was like, hey, could you help me with a talk for Texas Master Naturalist about reptiles and amphibians? I was like, sure, I can help with that. But as far as the structure of the program itself, I had no clue. So Mississippi Master Naturalist. They've been going for I believe over a decade now, and went over to visit with them in fall 2021. Learned about how they run their program and really getting some ideas as to how we were going to create this one. So it was noted that both with Alabama Master Gardener and now that we had this new Master Naturalist program that was starting to be built, that we needed more help. And so Extension recognized that. We hired Emily Birchfield. She assists primarily with Master Gardener, but she also helps out a lot with Master Naturalist as well. So that's where we were through winter 2022. Um, you know, like I said, there wasn't a necessarily a blueprint for me to follow showing up here right away. So another thing that I had to do was see what other states were doing. So there's this organization called the Alliance of Natural Resource Outreach and Service Programs. I know that's a long name. We just call it ANROSP. But about 2/3 of the country's naturalist programs are members of ANROSP. Somehow they convinced me to be vice president when we didn't even have a fully functioning program. I've learned along the way that, you know, if you show interest in something, you will probably be asked to help out with it. But I've learned so much by joining ANROSP. I can't understate the importance of networking and learning from successful programs because they've done some really, really incredible stuff. Just a few weeks ago, we were all up in Minneapolis for our annual conference, and this is mostly for program leadership, but I learned a ton. And Emily Birchfield was there as well. I know we both learned a bunch. We still haven't had a chance to debrief, but we are going to soon and talk about things and brainstorm some more ideas. So back in spring 2022, my senior counterpart in the college and a forestry specialist, Dr. Becky Barlow, she encouraged me to apply for this grant. She was like, Wes, I know you're just getting the program off the ground. I think that this would go a long way in helping you. Not just the money, but also because of all the support that the Extension Foundation provides. So applied for the grant. We were awarded it. And our original team members were myself, Emily Birchfield, who was brought on to help administer the program, Bence Carter, and Becky, Dr. Becky Barlow, the one who suggested I apply. Shortly after, uh, Becky left our college and she became the Associate Dean for Extension and the Assistant Director for Agriculture, Forestry, and Natural Resources extension programs. So she was no longer, with her newfound responsibilities, she was no longer able to be a team member. But we subbed her out for Carrie Steedley. So Bence, he was a regional extension agent down in the southeast part of the state. Bence has recently taken a job with the Alabama Forestry Foundation, but he was one of the people back, pre-COVID with Doyle that was helping administer the program. So we learned a lot from Bence. Very glad to have him on our team. And then Carrie Steedley, she is one of our team's regional extension agents up in the northwest part of the state. So that was our team moving forward. Doing the monthly meetings with our catalyst, Dr. Scott Reed and Tyra, and meeting with the key informants, and really that's setting the stage. But I do want to back up, or maybe not back up, but provide some context as to what we were aiming for. What is a Master Naturalist program in the first place? And let's uh, let's go there. But really, when we received this grant, we didn't have a fully functioning program. We had uh, we had done some free webinars. We had talked about doing some field days. But our goal during this time was to develop the program or finish developing it, launch it, and also to reach underserved communities. So by the point that I applied for this, I was doing presentations all around the state, and just in general, seeing that the folks that attend a lot of our programming aren't necessarily what is representative of who lives in Alabama. And being with Extension, we need to serve everybody. So that was something we're thinking about as well. But let's talk about master naturalists. So, some states they just call themselves naturalist programs. Some call them master naturalist programs. We did have a vote on this, and me being the newest one, I didn't have a dog in the fight either way. But because Alabama Master Naturalist or Alabama Master Gardener is so popular, we wanted to be consistent with the branding. Maybe that'll change someday, maybe it won't. But a Master Naturalist in general, they're trained stewards of a natural environment who teach the skills that they learn to other people. Oftentimes, these programs are developed in conjunction with universities and their corresponding extension programs, and they really are an outgrowth of Master Gardener programs. Master Gardener has been around for decades. Master Naturalist, not so much. The oldest Master Naturalist programs in the country are about 20 years old. They were started down in both Texas and Florida right around the same time. Now they're in many states, and there are also states that have naturalist programs that aren't affiliated with cooperative extension. Some that come to mind are Louisiana, Pennsylvania. Those are both of those are run uh, solely by volunteers. They're nonprofits. And with these master naturalist programs, there's no central governing body. Each state's program is independent. So that gives us a whole lot of leeway. And, coming in late in the game, that allows us to see what's worked for other states, what hasn't worked. And then also, every state is different. And that's something that we need to recognize and embrace. So from there, you know, not just what worked elsewhere, but what will work here. And also just recognizing what our capacity is at this time. So there's a whole bunch of worthwhile environmental organizations out there. You talk about some of the nonprofits like Audubon, the Sierra Club, um, and many of them, they're going to focus on either volunteerism, which is fantastic, or advocacy, which is also fantastic. But naturalist programs in general, or these master naturalist programs, many of them have gone the way of focusing on a combination of education. So first educating the participants, but then encouraging volunteerism. So we've got all these educated folks now that have been trained, and the goal then is to encourage them to go out in the world to do good, to make a difference in how we manage our state's natural resources. And really, for this program in particular, our goal is to promote awareness, understanding, and respect of Alabama's natural world amongst our citizens and our visitors. So pretty much anybody that crosses the state line into Alabama, we want to promote those things. But beyond that, like I was just saying, we want to have well-informed folks who can then go out and provide volunteer work, whether that be education, outreach, and service. Also, so we've got Scotty on from Alabama State Parks, and she'll talk later. But We have folks from state parks that are enrolled right now. We have people from other organizations. So they're actually using this as training so they can better perform their jobs. Why do we need it? Aside from when I started, the dean was supportive of it. There were faculty members that are saying, yeah, that we need it. Well, Alabama is a really incredible place. A lot of people don't recognize that. It's part of the Deep South. Some people consider it a flyover state, but if you dig down into its natural history, it's got incredible biodiversity, incredible geology. We've got a lot of endemic species or species that weren't found or aren't found anywhere else in the world. But at the same time, there's a whole lot of damage that has happened here, that has happened and is currently happening. We have I guess the not so great distinctions of being ranked second in all 50 states for the number of extinct species, third for the number that are imperiled, so those that are listed under the Endangered Species Act as threatened or endangered. And there's a wide range of reasons why. Habitat loss, habitat degradation. So much of our biodiversity is tied up in our aquatic environments, particularly our streams and our rivers, that things like damming of those rivers, polluting those rivers has pretty wide-reaching impacts. And for species with very limited ranges, that can and does lead to extinction or at least imperilment. So I just want to breeze through what the structure of Alabama Master Naturalist is. Um, and we'll touch on some of these a little bit more, but there's classroom instruction, there are readings. So many of y'all are probably familiar with the Sand County Almanac. Uh, Even if you don't live in Alabama, I do suggest you pick up Southern Wonder. It's really a fantastic book. Dr. R. Scott Duncan, he was a professor at Birmingham Southern College, which is no longer around. Birmingham Southern College or University? I'll need to check on that. But he is now head of Alabama Audubon. So we have really, for the launch of this, we've adopted a hybrid approach, so classroom instruction virtually, but this is about the outdoors. So we can't not have outdoor experiences. So we have 2 required field days and also 30 required volunteer hours. And from there, we're hoping for continued engagement. We we want folks not to just get certified, but continue to volunteer year after year. And I'll talk about it a little bit later, but certainly we understand that we need to incentivize people, and that can be through things like trying to build community, but also having get-togethers, things like that. And I don't want to understate how important volunteering is to the program. We really are going to rely on certified members to help strengthen and grow it. Um, and ultimately, we just want to do good. We want people that care about the environment already, or at least have an interest, get better educated, and then get out there and do good work. So where we were. So fall 2022, we've got Emily on board. We have received this grant from the Extension Foundation, and we also offered our first in-person field days. I will say that, and Scotty, you're not up just yet, but wanted to partner with state parks. So well, me coming in here, I had lived in seven years in Florida prior. Moving up here, having lived in Alabama for just over a year, I was like, I'm not even qualified to lead a field day. I mean, certainly I've spent most of my adult life in the American South. I have a good general grasp of the biodiversity that's here, the landscape, all that stuff. But we are visiting specific places, and I've never even visited them before. So who am I to lead a field day? So we were fortunate enough to get in some talks with folks from Alabama State Parks, and um, you know they were gracious in that they had lent the expertise of their park naturalists who really, in large part, have fully led these field days. We'd talk about, okay, well, what do you want to do? That sounds great. I want to add this in, but really we've been using their expertise to help educate our participants. You can see here, these are the areas in the orange circles. Those are where we've had field days in the past. Certainly, this is getting to a takeaway early, but we need to hit other parts of the state, particularly West and Southeast Alabama, for our field day offerings. But here are just some pretty pictures. I mean, it was been a fantastic experience for me. Seeing Goliath in Cathedral Caverns, looking for fossils along a road cut. Some fantastic views from Cheaha State Park. So Cheaha has our highest point in the state. DeSoto State Park, which we just had a field day there over the weekend. I really wish I could have made it. Oak Mountain, there's a picture of a Boynton oak, which they're very, very, very proud of, and a sandstone glade in which it grows. And then Wind Creek. So when Lake Martin was built, it was the biggest lake or the biggest artificial water body in the entire world. And then finally, golf. That is a pipefish, which they're relatives of seahorses. If you look closely, you can tell that that is just a seahorse that's been straightened out. But with that, I would like to let Scotty Jackson speak for a couple minutes. Scotty has been with us since the beginning as far as partnering with the Alabama Master Naturalist program. So, yeah, Scotty, please share a few words.
Sure. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm really excited to be here. And I just wanted to say that the Alabama Master Naturalist program has been such a wonderfully beneficial thing for us in state parks, as I hope it has been for all of the participants. So when Wesley reached out and said that he wanted to have a focus of having these field days in our parks, it felt like the absolute perfect partnership. And it's been wonderful for us for a myriad of reasons, partly because we have these incredible folks who are coming in and they're excited. They're excited to learn. They're excited to learn about the features of our different parks. And as you guys probably saw on that map, we have 21 state parks that span the northern tip of the state down to the southern. So, and they're all incredibly different. They're as diverse as the state. So we're very lucky in that sense. So I oversee the Central District, which for the purposes of this map is Oak Mountain, Cheaha, and Wind Creek. So we started off with a smaller grouping of parks the first year that we kind of participated in the field days, and then we've blossomed out this next time around, which has been wonderful, and we're excited to continue to expand into more of our parks as we go along. But it's been wonderful for our naturalists to be able to share about these amazing places that they work and to talk with these incredibly engaged folks. And the idea behind our job as naturalists within our state park system is to share these amazing natural resources with people. And so not only are we getting to share with these participants, but then they're taking that information and through their program, through their learning, they're spreading it out even further. So that's absolutely wonderful. And we also have had the benefit of engaging with some of these folks through their volunteer hours, which has been fantastic as well. We have several signed up at some of the parks within the Central District. I know I've spoken with folks in the other districts that have got folks signing up to do their volunteer hours with them. So that volunteerism is invaluable to helping take care of our park system. So we're incredibly grateful for this partnership and we're really excited for it to continue. And thank you, Wes. We appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Scotty. I mean, we couldn't be doing this without y'all, so this has been fantastic. All right, so I do want to shift focus now to some of the work that we did while on this grant. So, one of the things that we've been working on or have worked on is survey instrument development. So Extension is certainly big about, surveys. We're strongly encouraged to do them pretty much after any sort of programming that we do. But with the help of key informants with the Extension Foundation, we developed a pre-course survey, which has been distributed, and I'm going to share some of the results from that. So when participants log into the Canvas course, they are presented with the pre-course survey. There's a post-course. We're not quite ready for that. We are almost, but we should be able to compare and contrast the results from that in the coming months or during 2025 for sure. And then a barriers to participation survey. So one thing we were curious about is, well, what is preventing people from potentially participating in a program like Alabama Master Naturalist? Is it time? Is it money? Is it just lack of interest? And those were the surveys we developed. Also had some fantastic support in developing a few publications. Um, for example, the Extension Foundation's eZine feature, which you can see here. This will be a great product to be able to use, especially when going after future funding, along with the case statement. These were just really great products that I'm so happy to have in our back pocket as we talk more about uh, why this program is important, why it needs to grow, and really just highlighting in a very attractive way those aspects of it. So where we're at now, we rolled the course out to the public in October 2023. As mentioned, it was rolled out, or the initial rollout was in a hybrid format. So it is presented on Canvas. Participants log in and they can click through these modules that you see listed. So when we were putting together our goals for the grant period with the Extension Foundation folks, with our catalyst, Dr. Reed, like we were like, well, it'd be really great if we could get 100 people enrolled in this first year. And maybe we did too good of a job with generating interest because we've got over 400 people currently enrolled. So the amount of interest in the program has wildly exceeded our expectations. We're very, very grateful for that. We also need to figure out how to pivot and adjust so we can take care of over 400 people. Currently, there is no time limit as far as meeting the program requirements. So, going through the online course material, attending 2 field days, and completing the volunteer hours, that may need to change in the future. But at this point in time, we're honestly just happy that everyone is here. So, through the pre-course survey, I do want to share some of the participant demographics because in evaluating if we are currently serving underserved communities, we need to look at who's presently enrolled in the course. So pretty wide reach as far as the counties represented. So we've got 67 counties in Alabama, 44 of those are represented. But that said, there's 5 counties that account for more than 50% of the participants. And that does make sense. So Jefferson County is where Birmingham is. Madison and Limestone are the Huntsville metro area, and then Baldwin and Mobile are the Mobile Bay metro area. And those are some of the population centers in our state. Um, as far as breakdown by gender, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. We have a lot more females than we do males or non-binary. Um, and like I said, not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, in the natural resource field, sometimes we struggle to reach female participants. I know before I got here, there was an extension program developed on my team called Forest Her, which was focused on educating female landowners because we found that if we just have these free for all free for all workshops, forestry focused workshops, we really weren't getting that many. So by targeting it to females, we were able to get that information out to a more diverse group. But yeah, definitely not a bad thing that this is skewing heavily female. As far as rural or urban, 56% of the folks that are currently enrolled identified as being in an urban population, which is great. I mean, it's we are hitting both urban and rural folks, which is what we like to see. One result that was pretty surprising is that 70% of our participants are under 60 years old. This is very, very different than what Alabama Master Gardeners are seeing, where the vast majority are of retirement age. So that was nice to see, and you can see in this graph here that it's a pretty equal breakdown across the different age groups. The largest being 61 to 70, but the 31 to 40 got 21.5%, 41 to 50, 20.4%. So a really even spread across the different age groups represented, which is great. So one thing that doesn't reflect the demographics of our state very well, and we frequently see this, at least on my team, is that uh, our participants are predominantly white. 90% of the participants are white. And that really doesn't reflect the statewide demographics of Alabama very well at all. Statewide, a little over 60% are white. So that's something that we need to consider because, we all live here. We all need to be stewards of the environment. So how do we reach out to those other groups who aren't currently participating? One area that we've done a good job with has been reaching veterans, and Alabama Extension uh, has had some programming focused on engaging with veterans in the past, and currently. This is still an ongoing program, but Operation Grow for beginning veteran farmers. But as far as enrollment in Alabama Master Naturalist, uh, more than twice the statewide percent are represented here, which is great. As far as income goes, so the majority of participants in the Alabama Master Naturalist program, they do have an income that is, generally higher than what the median is for the state. So that was also something that we wanted to take into account. We want this program to be accessible for everybody, regardless of background or, what your income is. And we recognize that, even though that there are a lot of people that may want to take this course, the course fee, which I'll discuss on the next page, may be a particular barrier for their participation. So I guess one of the questions that people might be interested in is, okay, so we got $10,000 through this grant. How did we use it? So the course itself costs $135. That includes unlimited access to the Canvas course. That includes 2 field days. Um, but that can certainly be a barrier for some people. So, we did have to apply for a no-cost extension because we're with this grant because we're like, well, what can we do that will maximize the impact of this money? And what we ended up doing was we leveraged that $10,000 to provide full course scholarships for 73 participants. We considered things like race, veteran status, and household income um, as far as awarding these scholarships. And, I think that being able to provide these scholarships, because we did have it coincide pretty close to the launch of the course. So many of our first enrollees enrolled probably not, maybe not in large part, but it was certainly a contributing factor. They enrolled because of the money from the Extension Foundation that we were able to use to cover their course costs, which is fantastic. I don't think that as we were such a young program with not a ton of overhead costs to start, that I don't think that there was a more impactful way that these monies could have been spent. Um, so with that, I would like to turn it over to some of our program participants, and maybe we can just go from left to right across the screen as far as you're listed.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Wes. So,
Mhm.
hi everyone. My name is Haley Cotton. I am an English instructor at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, and I was one of the recipients of the scholarship. I don't make a lot of money, so the cost for the program was a prohibitive cost, and so I'm very grateful to have received that scholarship. Um, I'm sort of one of those people that a lot of the work that I've done as of the last couple of years has been at the intersection between environmentalism and the arts. As an English instructor at UAB, I teach in the core, so all of the classes that are required for students to take to get their degree, which also means that I see students from every major, every age, from all across campus. UAB is regularly recognized as one of the top 10 universities in the nation for its diversity of its student body, both racially and in gender. So I'm really getting to interact with a wide variety of students, and we changed our core last year to include a couple of classes that involve using Birmingham as a lens for learning, as using the classroom setting as Birmingham, which means that I get to construct my courses to include more than just literature and more than just writing. I really get to connect students back to place, which has been exciting. And I've always been someone who has like absolutely loved the outdoors. Started as a biology degree way back when, and kind of ran into turbulence with math and sort of evaluated how else I might advocate for the environment. And the answer to that was storytelling. So a lot of the work that I've done has included bringing students into creative writing, bringing students into literature, and asking how these stories have helped shaped us and how we're influenced by our natural world and what are the consequences of our actions and our stories on our environment and place. So it's kind of like a unique way to really snag students, especially when they think, oh, I'm going to take this literature class, and next thing you know, they're getting to learn about the watershed, and they're getting to learn about the geological history of the region and why Birmingham is even a city because of its natural resources. So really getting to provide like a full learning experience for my students has been pretty incredible. And this course gives me like the credibility and the certification to be able to say, yes, I know I teach English, but I also contain multitudes and do all of these other things. And this is why you can listen to me and trust me on this. The course has been absolutely great in getting to learn about all of these different aspects of the place I live, and really am able to connect Alabama to like even students who aren't from here, but students particularly who have lived here who haven't gotten that kind of exposure to like our biodiversity is incredible, and this is why we need to take care of things, and really getting to encourage students who haven't really liked the outdoors or who have had much exposure to the outdoors to the same enthusiasm that I have for place. And it's like igniting their interest in Alabama and allowing them to be proud of the place that they're living and the place that they're from, because so often we like if Alabama winds up in the national news, it's usually for like not the amazing things like our biodiversity. So to be able to frame our place and be like, no, it's wonderful, and these are the things that make us incredible, has been particularly wonderful. Beyond just my teaching into like my service, I have had the chance to speak at probably 20 different clubs and gatherings about Alabama and its biodiversity, particularly about the Cahaba River. I've done a lot of service with the Cahaba River Society, but also just done like species identification things with iNaturalist. I've met with places like the Rotary Club, the Exchange Club. I've led a couple of different hikes and guided tours with schools. So just Friday, as with the Red Mountain School, we went to the Ebenezer Swamp, where I gave a talk on wetlands, and we got to like geek out over the coneflower, and we saw a snake, and there were a bunch of other things. So like the ability to kind of reach the younger crowd of folks and get them excited about Alabama and what we're doing here has been just like so fulfilling and so amazing. So thank you so much, Wes, for welcoming me into the program and allowing me to be a part of things.
Yeah, thank you, Haley. That was a fantastic endorsement, and it's really good to hear more about your experiences. I probably should have had you explain why we need Alabama Master Naturalists, because that was great.
Thank you.
Is Rick on right now? I don't know that I see his name, and there might have been some cross signals here. But let me he did send me a bio, so let me read it. Rick is one of our program participants. And Rick said, I'm a retired Army colonel, age 66, and live in western Limestone County. I first saw the Master Naturalist certification course advertised via an email from Limestone Master Gardeners, of which I have completed that certification also several months before it started, and I immediately signed up. Later on, I found out I would receive a scholarship to attend the course. I've always been interested in nature and have tried to learn all I can and also to protect what is left in our care. I'm a member of the Tennessee River Keepers and own 54 acres of forest with springs and creeks near Elk River at Marbot Bend. The course is a great learning experience. I have enjoyed reading the books and going on the field trips. I have banked 19 hours of volunteer work, completed 90% of the online tests, read the books, and have been on 3 field trips. Uh, it is more difficult than I thought it would be, and that is a good thing. All right, well, thank you, Rick. Yeah, I don't think you're here. But Jim, I know that you see you're tuned in twice. Hopefully you can unmute yourself and share a little bit.
Okay. Hopefully you can hear me now. Great. Thank you. Thanks for the thumbs up. Um, well, I made myself a few notes here just because I believe so strongly in the Master Naturalist program that even though I live in Montgomery, I'm currently visiting my sister in Bangor, Maine. And consequently, I'm sitting in a Starbucks right now, juggling my phone and my laptop, uh, trying to make sure I got a connection that both audio and video. Uh, so anyway, it's lots of fun. And I'm wearing my Central Alabama Prescribed Burn Association ball cap just so that I've got some sort of connection here back with Alabama uh, while we do this. But uh, what I'm going to do is quickly tell my military history first so that my story is hopefully will make a little bit better sense chronologically. Uh, I served 26 years in the Air Force from December of 1973 to December of 1999. And for the first 3 years, I was a crew chief on fighter planes. It took me 4 hours working on the flight line to realize how much I hated that job. So I quickly managed to retrain into civil engineering, and I spent my remaining 23 years working in engineering design and construction. Uh, I was cordial and I tolerated my environmental engineering coworkers, but I really had no desire to play in their sandbox. It was one of those things, back in the 70s, environmental stuff was kind of a new thing, and I wasn't on board yet. So, anyway, forgive me, please. Um, anyway, uh, my first wife passed away from breast cancer in 1996 while I was still on active duty. And that left me with a 6-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old son to raise. And I did wind up retiring from the Air Force about 3 years later. It took me another 7 years before I managed to find and marry wife number two. And when I did that, we moved to Middle Tennessee for her job. She was a quality engineer in the automotive industry. Um, she passed away in 2020 from a heart attack. And so at that point, I returned to Montgomery, as I call it, instead of Montgomery, in order to be closer to my son's family. My son owns 14 acres in northern Autauga County, and I managed to buy 151 acres of timberland. That's about 1 mile away from him. So that's been lots of fun. Once I got on that 151 acres, I could see lots of deer and turkey tracks on the property. And that made me want to make it available for hunting by military veterans and first responders. I included the first responders because my son is a paramedic firefighter. And now in the last 2 or 3 years, he's also additionally on the local SWAT team as well. I didn't realize that SWAT teams carry paramedics with them, but they do. So he's doing it all. Let me see where I am in my notes here. So anyway, wanting to make the property available for hunting by the veterans and first responders, then evolved into also letting them go hike on the nature trails while I was there. Well, I didn't have to be there, but I had to have the trails for fire breaks and things. And then I extrapolated that into, well, why not do some woodworking and metalworking opportunities, not necessarily to become a community college of sorts, but just to give them an opportunity to do something fun, and might be a hobby, might be a vocation, but just to get involved and use their hands. Um, More recently, my girlfriend and I were taking the Alabama Master Gardener program, and she read the textbook. Sad to say I didn't, but I managed to pass the test anyway. Uh, she noticed in there reference to the horticultural therapy program. And since I already have a master's degree in counseling, she thought, oh, gee, I need to do that too. So uh, I was reluctant at first, but finally did come around and did some research on it and realized, yeah, that would be a great addition to what I want to do with the property. So I got involved in the Master Gardener program, just thinking that was all that was available. And back then, that was all that was available in Alabama. But it's exciting, and it's a great adjunct to be able to add the Master Naturalist program, because on a grander scale, it's really more applicable uh, to what I'm doing. So uh, it's been great. It's still evolving on my part. I'm looking forward. I've done the field days and the uh, training modules. I still need to get the rest of my 30-hour volunteer portion in, but that'll be coming next. And I'm going to close out here by saying that I close most of my emails with the statement, seek cascading synergies. And I believe that's what Extension is doing right now with this program. So I want to encourage you to continue seeking additional opportunities to build even greater synergies, because this is a phenomenal program. Thank you all very much. And thank you for that scholarship. Take care.
Thank you, Jim. Really appreciate that. And yeah, I appreciate both of you being on today, and for everybody that's been involved in the program so far. But yeah, I just want to highlight, and these are just some values from October to December, because each year with Extension we need to report our impact. But this the course launched in late October, so really there's just 2 months in here, and it, folks can finish their volunteer hours or complete their volunteer hours when they see fit, as they see fit. But just in those first 2 months, we had 62 folks who logged over 1,400 hours. And I do want to mention, we are working towards the point where we will have volunteer opportunities for people to participate in, or for program participants to participate in. But we also just want to act as this intermediary, being like, hey, well, you're involved in this program. There are all these worthwhile organizations in the state that could use your help. So just in the first 2 months that the program existed, volunteers logged hours at places like our Alabama state parks, as Scotty already mentioned. Some federal property as well. So this is Little River Canyon National Preserve in Northeast Alabama. Some have opted to volunteer with nonprofits. So we've got quite a few riverkeeper organizations around the state. And I know for a fact some have already logged hours with Black Warrior Waterkeeper. And then doing things like interpretation and invasive plant removal at some of our botanical gardens. So Birmingham Botanical Gardens, Huntsville Botanical Gardens. And for a lot of folks, these volunteer opportunities have been a really good, oh, I don't want to say transition, because they're still involved with Alabama Master Gardener, but as a good segue maybe into thinking about the more natural world. So our highest priorities moving forward, you know, either late this year or early next, we will certify our first group of Alabama Master Naturalists, which is super exciting. I can't wait. Um, you know, Another thing that we need to work on is expanding our field day offerings. We talked with state parks, and I already showed the map, so there is that geographical gap there, but also just being able to reach all of our 400 people, because our goal was to have 100 people enrolled this year. We scheduled 10 field days with state parks this fall. And if everybody attended 10 field days and we capped them at 25 people, that would allow 125 people to attend our field days, which is great, but we've got 400. So we need to expand our field day offerings, not just with state parks, talk to some folks in the Land Trust of North Alabama, so get more of those on the books as well. But also some more short-term goals. So I mentioned, we want to get people certified for sure. I mean, we want them to become better educated about the natural world and to contribute those first 30 volunteer hours. But really, we would like people that become involved with the program to stay involved. And part of that is building a sense of community. So not just field days for people that are becoming certified, but just networking and outing events. I know that Alabama Master Gardener, they do an annual conference, which is something that we definitely need to consider, not just to get people together, which is a great thing, but so we can inspire and educate each other. There's so many people already that I'm not going to get a good scope of what everybody's doing. I can read a line about I volunteered X number of hours here, but really, what did that mean? What did that mean to the state, to our natural resources, and what did that mean to that person? So an annual conference, it needs to happen. But looking back at our pre-course survey at the demographics, particularly related to race. So the Alabama Cooperative Extension System prides itself in that it's a system of both Auburn and Alabama A&M. That said, on my team, we don't, the Auburn folks don't work a whole lot with the A&M folks, and we need to change that. And that is just something that is very, very much a part of academia in general. Like I'm in forestry and wildlife, and sometimes it's a chore even getting folks across campus in biology to want to engage in anything. So we need to break down those silos, but reach out to potential partners, especially at HBCUs like Alabama A&M and Tuskegee. And then also nonprofits. We've got a whole bunch of great nonprofits in the state, and particularly focus in on those nonprofits that are in areas with limited master naturalist presence, whether that be where our field day offerings have been, or just where we don't have that many program participants, so the word can get out there and we can recruit more from those areas. Because, like I said, about 50% of our participants are coming from major metro areas, or as major as they can be in the state of Alabama. We need to get that barriers to participation survey out. There were some hiccups in that some changes needed to be made. And IRB can be a bear to work with. So we need to get those revisions made. We already have partner libraries that are going to help distribute them. They're going to be distributed electronically as well, but libraries are an important resource in Alabama. They're an important resource everywhere, but there is still a good percentage of folks in the state who do not have internet access. So, getting those paper copies out and distributing them through libraries is important as well. Long term, we really, really need to hire a dedicated program administrator. And my hope and my goal is that if we can build this program enough and show that it has value and that there are hundreds or even thousands of people that are interested in participating, that extension will create a position. Because like I said, I wear a whole bunch of different hats. I am a wildlife specialist for part of the day, and I'm the program coordinator for this. And tomorrow I'll be in the classroom teaching Auburn students. So, I'm too spread too thin to do this indefinitely, but it needs to stick around, and we're going to need a dedicated program administrator to do that. So Texas, I mentioned they are one of the first states, and they have really given their chapters a good amount of autonomy. But I would love to see the program develop into semi-autonomous chapters that can then start coordinating some of their own events and volunteer outings and things like that. Obvious places to start would be the Birmingham metro area and the Huntsville metro area. and really just keep growing the program. We have wildly exceeded my expectations as far as the interest and the participation so far. So let's keep that going. And then increase partnerships for both field days and program delivery. And I'd love to get in-person trainings offered at some point, but that's probably a couple years off. We shall see. All right, just some concluding remarks. So we've got really big changes for affecting positive change in our little corner of the country and of the world. But I just want to reiterate how important Extension Foundation's support for this program has been through the grant. So we wouldn't be where we are today without that funding. I do want to give a special shout out to Dr. Scott Reed, our Catalyst, project manager, Tyra Adelman, and then the Extension Foundation's key informants. And thank you so much. I know that I am running up against uh, the top of the hour, and I do see that there's a bunch of stuff in the chat. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see what's in the chat and if there's time to answer any questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Wesley. I appreciate you taking us through all of that and the perspectives from participants and partnerships. That was really valuable. We do have a couple minutes if anyone wants to unmute and ask questions to the team directly. And I just want to point out, I put a survey in the chat that it's just a quick survey with a few questions about this session and what else you want to see in the future. That would be super helpful if everyone filled that out. And I got a few questions personally chatted to me about if this was going to be sent out. So this is recorded and I will be sending it out along with the slides to everyone who registered. So I just wanted to reiterate that.
Well, thank you, Melanie. I've skimmed the chats. It doesn't look like there's anything in particular that needs to be addressed, but yeah, I will share these slides with Melanie and thank you, Melanie. Thank you, all the people involved with this program that tuned in today to share your experiences. I'm looking forward to the future.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I hope everyone has a great rest of your Monday, and we'll see you next time.